Disclaimer: the following content is a fictional what-if scenario exploring an alternative history of Middle-earth. This story is a creative interpretation based on J.R.R. Tolkien's world, but is not canon and represents fanfiction created for entertainment purposes only. This audio narrative is designed primarily to be listened to. While there may be accompanying images in the video, they are supplementary and not essential to understanding or enjoying the content. Viewers are encouraged to focus on the narration, as the story unfolds through words rather than visuals. All characters, events, and realms referenced belong to the Tolkien estate. This is a non-commercial fan production created out of appreciation for Tolkien's legendary works. Please support the official release of Tolkien's works. The Autumn Crown, read by Zendev, inspired by the works of J.R.R. Tolkien. As the last ships departed the Grey Havens, their white sails billowing with the westward winds, Thranduil, king of the Woodland Realm, stood alone upon the eastern shore. The Fourth Age had dawned, and with it came the slow withdrawal of the firstborn from the lands of Middle-earth. The great elven realms had diminished one by one. Rivendell emptied of Elrond's household, Lothlorien fallen silent without the Lady Galadriel's power, and Mithlond now stood as little more than a harbor of ghosts. Yet Thranduil had not heard the call of the sea. His gaze remained fixed upon the forests and mountains of the land where he had dwelled for millennia, while others of his kind sailed to the Undying Lands seeking the peace of Valinor. Something in him resisted. Perhaps it was the memory of his father Arthur, who had never bowed to the Noldor, nor heeded the summons of the Valar. Perhaps it was the ancient grief of one who had witnessed too much loss to abandon what little remained. Or perhaps it was simply that Thranduil, unlike many of his kindred, had found in the woods and caverns of Middle-earth something that felt more like home than any paradise across the sea ever could. "My lord," came a voice behind him. Thranduil turned to find Gallion, his old steward, approaching with a message scroll in hand. "Word comes from the scattered realms. The last of the great lords have departed. Lord Celeborn has finally taken ship with the sons of Elrond. The remnants of all elven communities now look to you." Thranduil accepted the scroll but did not immediately break its seal. "How many remain?" "Perhaps 3,000 in all," Gallion replied. "Those who dwelt in Imladris have sent their pledge to Arwen Nazgul. So too have the few who lingered in what was once the Golden Wood. Even the Falathrim who maintained the harbors have moved inland now that the final ships are gone. And they wish for me to rule them all." There was neither eagerness nor reluctance in Thranduil's voice, merely curiosity. "They say there must be a high king for those who remain. The time of separate realms is past. We are too few now." The wind from the sea whipped Thranduil's silver gold hair about his face as he gazed westward one last time. Then he turned his back to the waters and broke the seal on the scroll. Names and pledges from elven settlements across Middle-earth filled the parchment, from the remnants of Lindon to the southern forests of Ithilien, where his son Legolas had once established a colony before he too had heard the gull's call. "So it shall be," Thranduil said, his voice carrying the weight of the decision. "But I will not rule from the old places of power. The time of hidden valleys and golden woods is ended. We shall gather in the greenwood, in the halls I have maintained since before the rising of this sun." The coronation took place at midsummer, beneath the spreading canopy of the forest once called Mirkwood, now cleansed of its shadows and renamed Arwen Nazgul, the Wood of Green Leaves. The ceremony was unlike any that had been held in the elder days. There was no distribution of rings of power, no grand alliances forged against a common enemy. This was a gathering of survivors, the last of the Eldar, who had chosen Middle-earth over paradise. Thranduil sat upon a throne carved from a living oak, ancient beyond reckoning. Unlike the circlets worn by previous high kings, his crown was fashioned from autumn leaves and red berries, woven with silver threads that caught the dappled sunlight filtering through the trees. He had refused the traditional emblems of the Noldor kings, choosing instead symbols that represented the woodland elves who had never crossed the sea. "I am not Gil-galad," he proclaimed to those assembled, "nor am I Fingolfin or Fingon. I am not even Dior or Thingol of Old Doriath. I am Thranduil of the Woodland Realm, and if I am to be your High King, I shall be a king of autumn, not of spring. We who remain are the twilight of our kind in these lands." Before him stood many representatives of every remaining elven enclave, silver-haired shipwrights from Mithlond who had refused the call, scholars from Rivendell who could not bear to part with their scrolls and tomes, warriors from Lorien who had become too attached with the trees they had protected, and his own sylvan subjects who had never intended to leave. All had donned garments in the greens and browns of the forest, abandoning the distinctive styles that had once separated their peoples. "The age of men has come," Thranduil continued, his clear voice carrying through the clearing. "But our time in Middle-earth is not yet finished. We shall no longer dwell apart, hidden behind enchantments and secret passes. We shall walk among the younger races, offering guidance where it is sought, memories where they are needed, and beauty where it has been lost." He rose from the throne, tall and commanding as the great trees around them. "We are now one people, not Noldor, not Sindar, not Sylvan, not Falathren. We are simply the Eldar who remain, the children of the stars who choose the shadows and light of Middle-earth over the undimmed radiance of Valinor." The first decades of Thranduil's reign as High King brought significant changes to the remaining elven settlements. The grand underground halls beneath the Greenwood were expanded, becoming both a fortress and a cultural center for all elves who remained in Middle-earth. Unlike the hidden refuges of old, Thranduil established open trade with the realms of men and dwarves, particularly with the restored kingdoms of Dale and Erebor. Elven craftsmen began to work alongside the finest human artisans, teaching and learning in equal measure. Thranduil, unlike many elven rulers before him, recognized that with their diminished numbers, isolation was no longer viable. This new openness sometimes troubled the older elves who remembered the days of secrecy and separation, but Thranduil's vision proved prescient. "We cannot pretend that nothing has changed," he told his council on a chill autumn evening, as they debated whether to send healers to aid a plague-stricken human settlement. "Our strength was once in our separation, but now it must be in our connections. Every mortal life we touch carries forward something of our wisdom into the world that will remain when we are gone." The council chambers, carved into the living rock beneath a massive oak, fell silent. Then Erestor, once Elrond's chief counselor in Rivendell, spoke up. "You speak as though you believe we too shall eventually depart, my king." Thranduil's gaze was distant, focused on something beyond the present moment. "Not all of us, not soon. But yes, Master Erestor, I believe that even those of us who have resisted the call of the sea will gradually dwindle. Our purpose now is to ensure that we do not simply fade away, leaving nothing behind but empty halls and fading memories." As the years of the Fourth Age lengthened into decades and then centuries, Thranduil's prediction proved true. Slowly, even some who had initially remained began to hear the call of the sea. Every few years, a small party would journey westward to the remaining harbor where a single ship was maintained for those who changed their minds. Yet, for every elf who departed, it seemed that the resolve of those who remained grew stronger. Under Thranduil's guidance, they developed a new identity. They became the memory keepers of Middle-earth, preserving knowledge that might otherwise have been lost in the rapid changes of the age of men. Thranduil himself rarely left the Greenwood, preferring to receive visitors rather than venture forth. Kings of Gondor and Arnor would journey to his hall to seek counsel, as would the lords of Dale and even occasionally the kings under the mountain from Erebor. To all who came, he offered the same measured wisdom, never dictating, always guiding. "It is strange," remarked King Eldarion, son of Aragorn, during one such visit, "to think that you knew my father as a child, this father before him, and so many generations beyond counting." "Not so strange," Thranduil replied, offering the king a glass of Darwinian wine. They sat beneath the stars in a clearing near his halls, the autumn night crisp around them. "That is the burden and the gift of the Eldar, to watch the swift seasons of men and to remember. Your line stretches back to Elros, brother of Elrond, who chose mortality. In you I see echoes of both kindreds. And yet, Lord Thranduil, you never sailed west yourself, when all the great lords of the elder days departed. Galadriel, Elrond, even your son. You remained. Why?" Thranduil was silent for a long moment, his ageless face illuminated by starlight. When he spoke, his voice was soft with memory. "I have never seen the two trees, nor heard the calling of the Valar in my heart. My father left Doria not to seek the light of Valinor, but to establish his own realm far from the influence of those who had. I am my father's son in that regard." He gestured to the forests around them, where fireflies danced between ancient trees. "This is my Valinor, Eldarion. These trees, these stars, this earth. I have watched this forest burn and recover, sicken and heal. I have fought darkness here and seen light return. Why would I abandon it now, when it has given me everything?" The most significant challenge of Thranduil's reign came 300 years into the Fourth Age, when tensions between the reunited kingdom and the easterly nations erupted into open conflict. Though the elves had largely withdrawn from the political affairs of men, the fighting threatened to spill into the eastern borders of the Greenwood. The council was divided. Some argued that they should retreat deeper into the forest, using their dwindling enchantments to divert attention from their realm. Others insisted that they should ally with Gondor and Arnor, honoring ancient bonds. Thranduil listened to all sides before making his decision. "We will not hide," he declared, "nor we will take up arms in a war that is not ours. Instead, we will offer to mediate between the warring parties." His pronouncement was met with skepticism, but Thranduil was resolute. For too long, the elves had been seen as either aloof observers or fearsome warriors. Let us instead be remembered as peacemakers in these latter days. And so it came to pass that in the fields between Rhun and Gondor, the High King of the remaining elves in Middle-earth erected a great pavilion of silver and green, inviting the leaders of both sides to meet under his protection. For 40 days they negotiated, with Thranduil offering insights from thousands of years of witnessed conflicts and resolution. "You fight over borders that will mean nothing in a few generations," he told the assembled rulers in the final day. "You squabble over insults that will be forgotten before the children now being born have reached maturity. Look instead to what will remain, the land itself, the rivers that nourish it, and the mountains that guard it. These are the things that are worth preserving." The Treaty of Arwen Lasgalet became renowned throughout the northern lands, establishing not just peace, but cooperative ventures between former enemies. And though few acknowledge it openly, the wisdom of the Elven High King had prevented a war that might have devastated the realms of men for generations. As the 5th century of the 4th Age approached, the number of elves remaining in Middle-earth had dwindled to less than 1,000. Yet those who stayed had developed a resilience and purpose unlike any known by their kindred in earlier ages. They no longer yearned for the grand powers and dominions of old, instead finding fulfillment in smaller but no less meaningful endeavors. Thranduil's halls became a center of learning, where human scholars would come to study ancient texts and techniques that might otherwise have been lost. Elven healers would periodically journey to human settlements, offering their skills where needed most. Even the dwarves of Erebor maintained cordial relations with the Woodland Realm, exchanging crafts and knowledge. On the 500th anniversary of his coronation as High King, Thranduil called together all the remaining elves for what many suspected would be their final grand gathering. They assembled in the same clearing where he had first been crowned, though now their numbers filled barely half the space. Thranduil appeared before them not in royal robes, but dressed as a simple woodland hunter, with only his autumn crown to mark his station. His face showed no sign of age, and yet something in his eyes spoke of the weight of years uncounted. "My kindred," he began, his voice still clear and commanding, "we have witnessed the turning of an age. We have seen kingdoms of men rise and fall and rise again. We have maintained our presence in this Middle Earth when all predicted we would fade entirely." A murmur of agreement passed through the assembly. "I did not seek to be our king," he continued. "I sought only to provide a haven for those who, like myself, could not bear to leave these shores. Yet in remaining, they have found a purpose that perhaps even the Valar did not foresee." He gestured to the forests around them, where the autumn leaves glowed gold and crimson in the afternoon light. "We are the autumn of our kind, beautiful in our fading, and like autumn, we have a glory all our own, different from the spring and summer that came before, but no less worthy." Thranduil removed his crown of autumn leaves and berries, holding it before him. "I will continue to guide our people for as long as you wish it, but know this. Whether we remain another 500 years or 5,000, we have already achieved what I believe to be our greatest purpose. We have breached the gap between the elder days and the dominion of men. We have preserved what might have been lost, and in doing so, we have ensured something of the Eldar will always remain in Middle-earth, even when the last of us has departed." As the sun set on that autumn day, the assembled elves raised their voices in a song that blended traditions from all their former realms. Noldorin harmonies with Sindarin verses and Sylvan melodies. And in that moment, they were indeed as Thranduil had envisioned. Not fragments of the past, but something new and unified. The last and perhaps the most resilient children of Ilúvatar to walk beneath the trees of Middle-earth. The starlight, Thranduil's autumn crown, gleamed like a promise kept, a testament to an unexpected destiny fulfilled by the last High King of the Elves. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this exploration of what might have been. This what-if scenario was created out of respect for Tolkien's incredible world and characters. If you enjoyed this content, please consider reading or revisiting Tolkien's original works, supporting official Middle-earth publications and adaptations, or sharing your thoughts in the comments below, and maybe even subscribing for more Middle-earth content. Special thanks to my girlfriend whose support and encouragement made this video possible. Your love and belief in my creativity means more than words can express. Thank you also to all the Tolkien fans who keep the magic of Middle-earth alive through their passion and creativity. Remember, in the words of Professor J.R.R. Tolkien himself, not all those who wander are lost. Until next time.